Hey PTA Global Community, this is Scott Hopson. I'm back for Q&A number 2 this week. Another topic that's really gained a lot of interest in the last few years, and particularly in the last few months, is vibration training. And maybe the number one question we get is, when and how do I progress with vibration training? So in the next 4 or 5 minutes max, I'd love to take you through a simple 6-step sequential order to progression vibration. Now, my disclaimer here is this: based on who it's for and their goal, the speed at which you progress will change, and how far you go down the continuum will change. But what will never change is the order of progression. Okay? So if you're going to go from A to B to C to D, you may go further than someone else. You may get there quicker than someone else, but you're not going to go from A to D unless you've earned the right B and C first. Okay? So, number 1. Build your volume of work. There are 3 main ways you can do that. You can increase your time under tension per working set. You can increase the number of sets you do. You can increase the number of movements you do. All of these essentially are at the same intensity, but you're now allowing the tissues and systems of your body to acclimate to an increased demand. In other words, you're building your volume. Simple. That's what we do with other forms of training. That's what we're going to do with vibration. Okay? Number 2. Tweak your skill. Now this is a huge one, because what a lot of people tend to do is, master or even just practice a handful of movements and then start loading the life out of them on these vibrating platforms. This is kind of crazy, because what we're doing is we're essentially loading the movement before we've learned the movement. Alright? We're loading the movement before we've learned the movement. If you're squatting, lunging, pushing, pulling, twisting, bending, stepping, whatever it is you're doing on these platforms, wonderful, but you've got to change the range of motion, the speed of motion, the plane of motion. Train in 3D. Use our triangulate method. Okay, you may go from static variable to dynamic. You may go from bilateral to unilateral. Different planes at different speeds at different ranges. You know what these acute variables are, but you've got to do that with these platforms before you actually start loading them with higher intensity. Okay, so number 2, tweak the skill. Number 3, tweak the work to rest ratio. This is always going to be dependent on the client and their goal. If someone's training for max strength versus local endurance, you're going to have completely different work to rest ratios. Okay? Number 4. Now it gets a little trickier. It starts getting exciting, but it's a little trickier. Number 4 is frequency. Change your frequency from low to higher frequencies. What's really important that we remember here is, when we go from low to high frequencies, we're actually increasing the G forces, the G factor. These platforms leave and come back and hit you every, 25 to 40 times a second. And every time they leave and come back, at that moment, they're applying a force to your body. And the force applied to an object is its mass times acceleration. So we know that, and we know vibration is a form of acceleration training, right? But it's somewhere between 1.6 and up to 7 or 8 G forces, depending on the platform. So if every time it comes back, it hits me with multiple G forces, that's a lot of force that I have to tolerate, okay? As I increase the frequency, decrease the time under tension for every working set, and potentially increase your work to rest ratios once again. We would do this with traditional training. If I was doing a 10 rep 200 pound back squat, and then you added another 30, 40 pounds to that, I wouldn't do 10 reps. I might only get 5 or 6 reps, and I'd probably have to rest longer again. Vibration's no different. Frequency goes up, time under tension goes down, work to rest ratio increases again, and build up if your goal deems that necessary. Number 5, change the amplitude, low to high amplitude. The thing with amplitude is, when you double the amplitude, you double the G forces. It's a massive jump. 40 hertz low to 40 hertz high could be the difference between 2.5 and 5 G forces. We wouldn't do that with other forms of training. We wouldn't double the speed on the treadmill. We wouldn't double the load on a barbell. We wouldn't do that. So don't do it with vibration. When you go from low to high, drop the frequency back down, and drop the time under tension back down, and increase the work to rest ratio, just like you would with other forms of training. Okay? Number 6 is adding mass. You now have earned the right to, if your goal is appropriate and the person can handle it, and that's a big one, bring some extra mass on these things. Ideally, should be actually loaded. There's a difference between using your appendicular system to hold the mass and using your axial system. If you want to optimize the vibration in terms of strength and go into the working tissues of the trunk and lower extremity in particular, load it axially. Now, 20, 30, 40 pounds of additional mass is not just 20, 30, 40 pounds. When you bring extra mass onto a vibrating platform, you have to magnify it by the amount of G-forces coming off. If someone comes on here with 20 extra pounds, let's say in a weight vest, and it's at 5 Gs, every time that platform comes back, it's analogous to having another 100 pounds of load go through you. What does that mean? When you add mass, drop the frequency, drop the amplitude, drop the time under tension, and build it all up again. Why? Force applied to an object is M times A. Now you've added more M, and you've added more A, F goes through the roof. That's wonderful. I mean, if increasing F is your goal, fantastic. A, did you go through the sequential order to earn the right to do that? B, can that person's body tolerate it? Can the systems and tissues of the body tolerate it? If the answer is yes, fantastic. Knock yourself out. So, there you have it. It's a 6-point system. Got any questions, shoot us an email. Hope that helps. Bye.